and welcome to Probability Beach, our first broadcast of the new year. I want to thank you all for coming back. I hope you had a good holiday. Ours was pretty good. All the craziness around Christmas and New Year's, and then some folks getting sick. But after that, we had all these great storms that closed down the roads, knocked the electrical grid off for a while. You know, it's funny. You'd think a town this technically sophisticated would have more control over something like its electrical grid, but sometimes it seems like it has a mind of its own. We'll talk more about that in a future episode. Today I want to tell you about our first, odd happening of the new year. One of our citizens went down to LA to do some work, and he's not coming back. What happened to him down there? Well, some folks say it was a tragedy, and others, they just don't have the words for it. So I'll just show you a story and let you judge for yourself. See you back in a few minutes. Even the rats were gone. There was nothing to eat, nothing left to scavenge. Why would they stay? A new and unknown fault line, miles beneath Los Angeles, had shifted for the first time in millions of years. A slip of 10 feet had wiped out many of the small satellite communities and leveled most of LA itself. Hicks was going to rebuild the city. His team had laid out the array of nano-assemblers all around the valley in which LA sits, 64 sets in all. This was Hicks's favorite moment on any project, the hush before the storm, before the assemblers began consuming everything in the devastation zone, rearranging their molecules and creating something new and beautiful. Hicks's nanomachines would eat rubble and shit out a city. It was a wondrous thing. And right now, before he hit the switch to begin the process, it was a perfect moment, ripe with hope, beauty, and possibility. Of course, Hicks knew the reality of cities. When people returned to LA, things would go back to the way they'd always been. The litter, the noise, the stink of drunks pissing in doorways, the loneliness of the place. That, most of all. Allison didn't love him. She never would. Hicks was over the initial devastation and had entered a kind of slowly throbbing blankness. He wasn't angry with her. He couldn't be. He loved her. And he was well aware of his long history of bad decisions where love was concerned. Moments missed, opportunities squandered. Allison would never love him, but Hicks would still have her. The certainty of it thrilled him as he dismissed his crew to make the final equipment inspections on his own. He felt a cold adrenaline rush as he stood at the eastern end of Hollywood Boulevard, looking back into the dead city. Hicks's radio crackled. Someone was asking if he'd left the valley yet. Hicks just clicked off the noise. He was utterly alone. Then he pulled the remote from his jacket and pressed the button. A buzzing filled the air. 1 minute later, a billion nanobots erupted from the assemblers like swarms of locusts and began to eat the remains of the city. Allison had lodged herself like a perfumed blade in his heart. Hicks would never let her out, and he'd make sure that she'd never want to leave him. The nanobots settled on his skin, systematically dismantling his flesh and bones, rearranging Hicks's molecules into pavement, streetlights, sewage tunnels, electrical conduits, elevator shafts, the glass skin that slowly wrapped itself around newborn skyscrapers, the stone wall that circumscribed the resurrected observatory. Hicks knew he'd mangled his life and would never rebuild it, but he could build a city, a perfect place, a home where families would live and children would play, where business would flourish, art would thrive, and life would begin again. And when Allison walked down his streets and slept within the walls made from his blood and muscles, she would love him. The last part of Hicks that the nanobots took was his face. His smile vanished in the air, like the smile of the Cheshire Cat. Well, that's it for this week. I want to thank you for coming by, and as always, you can find us on YouTube and Google Video. Of course, you can find us on the official Probability Beach blog on blogspot.com, and I hope you'll come by next week for a new story. Until then, I'm Richard Cadry, and I'll see you around Probability Beach.